Hello, it's good to be with you as we continue this series of reflections on Lent. And hopefully you can talk about this as a family or with friends in terms of the themes that we will share today. We've been talking about what Lent is like, and today I'd like to simply talk about how Lent is a little bit like remembering the directions. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, not all of Lent is about that, but a lot of Lent really is. It's about remembering God's best advice for us, his directions for us. You see, God made us, and so God knows how we work the best. Just like things you might have in your house, your computer, or some sort of game, or some sort of tool. Sometimes we have to go back and how does this work? What does this button do? We have to ask those questions, and the best way to figure out the answers is to look at the instructions. Too many of us try and put things together or do things without looking at the instructions, and usually that gets us in trouble. Well, the same thing is true for us and God. Often we forget in this life the good advice that God gives us, and when we do that, we get into trouble. Now, last time we were together in our video, I cleaned out a bird nest because we talked about how Lent is a little bit like house cleaning. And it was a bird house. The nest was in a bird house, the old nest, so a new nest can go in. And I'm hopeful the new nest would. Not in that bird house, but in some others. I just saw some bluebirds beginning to investigate. So hopefully I can show you that one of these days. But I'd like to show you a bird house. This one got loose on the tree, and I have to put it back up on a tree or a fence post. And you can see here the birdhouse. I have it in my hand. And when we made these birdhouses, I followed a lot of instructions. You can see how the roof is bigger than the rest of it, and that's so that water won't easily come into the birdhouse. There's a nice overhang on the birdhouse. You also see the hole. That hole is a very specific size because that would mean a bluebird can get in and not some other birds that might get into the bluebird nest and destroy those eggs and take their nest. You'll see at the bottom of the nest how there's some holes. Just small holes in the corners. That's so that if rain does get in, even with the roof the way it is, rain can go out and the nest can dry and the rain won't build up. You can also see how there's a gap right between, you can actually see between there, between the sides. It's covered by the roof, but there's a gap. That's so there's a little ventilation in the nest. So when sun hits the roof, or it doesn't get too hot. There's still some ventilation and some fresh air that can get in. There's a screw right here. And there's nails up on top that are kind of like a hinge. So that when I unscrew that screw, I can open it up and clean out the nest. And you even see along that side of the nest some grooves below the hole. And that's so that the little birds, when they're in there, if they're down further in the nest, they can easily climb up. Truth is, this wood is not real smooth wood, so it's easier for them to kind of get their little nails on that and climb up. But those grooves are just there to help a little bit. And you also see that my nests aren't painted, or the birdhouse isn't painted, because sometimes the paint can be not very good for the birdhouses, and the nest kind of doesn't breathe, the nesting box. So all of these reasons and more are directions that help us make this nest in a way that will best suit the bird, will help keep the birds, especially the birds you want, the bluebirds, to be healthy and whole. And so we follow those directions. Now, could a bluebird, find a nest into a nesting box that isn't filled with those directions? Sure. But would that home be as good for the bluebird? Probably not. Would it perhaps present dangers like water getting into the nest, or not enough ventilation, or a predatory bird that would take over the nest? Would not following the directions enable some of those destructive things to happen? Maybe. So you see, when God gives us his words, he gives them to us so that we might be safer. And when we follow those instructions, we find that our way is more secure. Our freedoms and our life is better. In this coming Sunday's gospel lesson, actually in this coming Sunday's Old Testament lesson, we will have the 10 Commandments shared. That's one of the oldest and most reliable covenants God gives with his people. And those commandments are a gift to his people, a gift that help us know how we can best live in the freedom and in the new life that he grants. So, as you hopefully this Sunday listen to the sermon and read over those texts, I hope you put those 10 commandments to your heart, that you take this season of Lent as a time to reflect on how God would have you better live your life and abide in his commandments, because when you do, you'll find that your life is healthier and your home is safer and your freedoms are able to be expressed in a way that blesses you and blesses those around you. Well, I'm going to go and hang this bluebird house so that another bluebird can hopefully make a good and healthy home in a way that's been well prepared for him. May the same be the case for you and your family. God bless.